And welcoming everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We have a redraft bust show for you today. So we're going to be talking about guys that we think are not going to return on their average draft position as of now. So these are guys that we're trying to avoid in our drafts, guys we aren't taking where they currently are. Obviously, we're not saying that these guys suck or that they're not going to be able to put up some fantasy points for it. We just don't like where they're currently going. But first, we have a few news stories to talk through. First, some big coaching extensions. The Bills have extended Sean McDermott through 2027. With that, they also extended their general manager, so you can expect some stability in Buffalo through 2022, 4 years from now, or 2027, 4 years from now. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Their running back situation hasn't been great for fantasy as of late. It could very well stay the same under Sean McDermott. We will have to see. Second news story, Sony Michel has signed with the Rams. He was on the Rams before. Now he's back with the team, a team that currently just has Cam Akers at the top of the depth chart. Sony Michel was productive for the Rams when he played for them previously, so he's hoping to come in, just kind of fill that back, just be a change of pace back every once in a while, and I think he's got a decent shot to do that. I think he could be the RB2 on this roster. And the third piece of news, we have some more NFL suspensions from gambling. Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, he's been suspended for the entire year, as well as a handful of other NFL players. We currently don't know the names of those players, but we've come to a point where we've had multiple people from the Lions suspended for gambling in the NFL, as well as now Isaiah Rodgers. We come to this point where the NFL has so many rules against gambling that it's extremely hard for these players to, keep that under wraps. It seems to be, they seem to be forgetting some of these rules or just thinking there might not be any consequences, but the NFL has definitely shown us that there will be consequences for gambling. And I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that the gambling punishments that have been handed out are too harsh? You can let us know using the MEedia app. A whole new version is going to be coming out. You'll be able to do anything you want. You can host your own virtual press conference, change your background up. It's absolutely fantastic. You can trash your fantasy football league mates, pull up the chat, make a press conference, say, oh, this guy, we're talking about some bust today. Go make fun of someone for taking one of these guys in maybe one of your money league drafts. So definitely go check it out. MEedia, available on the Google Play and the App Store. And now let's welcome in our guests, Jeff and Will with MEedia. How are we doing tonight?
Hey,
doing all right.
We're here.
All right. You guys think that these gambling punishments are a little too harsh? A year suspension for gambling? What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard when the NFL is now involved in gambling and has a team in Vegas. But, oh my. Jameson Williams, this is a little bit too steep. I will say that. Well, these new ones, I'll let those go. I don't know how in depth their gambling went.
If I'm a lower tier player, I'm worried because the NFL is probably not going to make an example. I mean, Jameson Williams got 6 games. You see the Colt guys getting a year. Now, he was betting on the Colts game, supposedly, so I understand that. But I think if you're not a named player star, you should be very worried.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it kind of depends on what you're betting on. Jameson Williams, he was betting on another league, but he was in teams' facilities, which I think should be perfectly okay. But I guess the NFL has their rules against that. So I don't know. For me, it's a little steep unless you're betting on your own team, in which case I understand. That's definitely
it's all about the NFL not getting the federal government to regulate them on this issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is all about. So they're going to be overly strict. They're going to make an example to show the world that they are right as they have partners with DraftKings
And I think Jameson Williams should get kudos for betting on women's sports. Somebody should pat him on the back.
Yeah.
We know somebody's actually watching women's sports now.
What was the WNBA?
I'm not sure exactly, but
okay. Good for him.
Interesting that we'll see how that kind of turns out. But like I said, we're going to be doing a bus show today. Zach will hopefully be joining us later. Each of us have picked 2 to 3 players that we don't like at their current ADP, guys that we are avoiding. I'm going to start it off with a guy who everyone's been talking about, everyone's in love with, number 9th overall pick in this NFL draft, and that's Bijan Robinson, currently going on Sleeper as the RB3. And I think that's his ceiling as absolute best outcome after this year. He's on an offense that, doesn't project to be great with Desmond Ridder at quarterback or Taylor Heineke. So touchdowns probably won't be there. Bijan is definitely a great talent. And the offensive line for Atlanta is pretty good, but on a team that doesn't project to score a lot. And in an offense that we've seen, they like to share the ball in that backfield. Last year we saw Tyler Algier, who, in my opinion, watching them was by far their best and most talented back. And he only played over 60% of the snaps 3 times in the entire season. And to me, he was the best for majority of the season, and they wouldn't give him majority of the share. You also have Cordell Patterson in the backfield. Yes. And although I don't like Cordell Patterson, you know what he does? He takes away from those targets out of the backfield, that third down work. That's exactly where Cordell Patterson is. That's where he makes his bread. And if Bijan's supposed to come in and get 100 targets to get into this RB3 range, third running back, you're not going to do that with Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson in this backfield to me. So I'm very hesitant. Lack of touchdowns, and I think that they're just going to spread the ball around more than people expect. You have Kyle Pitts and Drake London also in this offense, and the quarterback play should be subpar. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Bijan Robinson here. I think RB3 is way too high. Maybe if you could get him as, an RB2, so maybe he's in that, 12 to 14 range. I feel like that'd be a pretty good range. He's a rookie. We've never seen him play in the NFL. It's not a guarantee that this thing works out. But if he was in that, late RB1 to early RB2 range, I think that's kind of where I'd be comfortable. But RB3, I'm completely out on Bijan Robinson. Jeff and Will, am I being, biased here, being an NFC South fan, or are you guys in on Bijan at RB3?
No, I'm right there with you. I've seen some people take him as high as the 3rd pick in the draft, which just made my jaw drop. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in that offense other than the fact Arthur Smith coached Derrick Henry. Bijan Robinson is still not Derrick Henry, and the line that the Falcons has is nowhere near the lines that the Titans have had over the last few years. So I don't see where people are getting all of this renewed hype from. So, it's this first year is a show me year, so I don't understand how he is going over a lot of other proven backs, just saying that, the running back, the whole running back field is not as clear cut as it once was, but people have been just talking about this guy being like almost the top running back in the whole group. And I'm like, how? I mean, he wasn't even like to me, the most dominant back in college football this past year. So I'm just, I don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the talent is there, but to me, that there wasn't really any amazing opportunities for him to fall into. Atlanta was one of the most talked about and was probably, the people thought was the best landing spot for him. But even then, to me, still, if he sees, he'll probably see around 60% of the snaps on average, if I had to guess, if you average out his entire season. And I don't think that's going to be enough in a sub, I think they're going to be a bottom 10 offense in the league. Mm-hmm. I don't want that running back as my RB3. Will, what do you think about Bijan?
I mean, I think Atlanta is a franchise that had a lot of question marks this year. Coaching staff, what ownership's going to do. And so you don't know what you're going to get with Bijan, right? What if they start off 0-5, 0-6? Is ownership going to put their hand in the coaching staff and say, well, do I really want to risk my first round pick getting hurt over a meaningless season? Maybe I run the treads off Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier a little more because, that's going to weigh in this, and that's going to affect fantasy. So if they're 2-8 through 10 games, are you going to risk him as a franchise? And so I'm not sure. It makes me nervous, especially at RB3. Now, maybe we'll all eat crow and he'll have a rookie of the year season and he'll win teams who took a chance on him. I don't even know if you say that out loud, I'm not even sure that makes sense because they're drafting him too high. It's one thing.
Yeah, RB3 is like his ceiling.
Right. His ceiling, right? So I don't know what people are thinking. I think Jeff maybe summarized it best, that I think people have PTSD with running backs in fantasy football now, and we don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, if
it's changing so much, we don't know what running backs of value. Who's really RB1 outside of Christian McCaffrey?
Christian McCaffrey.
Who's RB2?
Yeah,
we can speculate, but last year you would say you probably had the top 5 running backs picked. I don't know this year. I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I think it is definitely more open. But for Bijan to be the RB3, I think Tyler Algier would have to miss, 6+ games, and same with Cordell Patterson. They would both have to miss time, and then that would maybe get Bijan to RB3 if they score a lot more than we think they're going to. And then I think that's way too much to ask for. I think he can be consistent throughout the year. Kind of, he'll be more. He should be better than what we saw from Tyler Algier last year. But Tyler Algier did not finish anywhere near the RB3 last year. So
and that's just the thing too. How some people keep falling in love with this whole theory that Arthur Smith and what he did with Derrick Henry. Yeah, remember Derrick Henry was their only offense that they had for a while, and he was like a throwback to an old school running back where you could just keep giving him the ball. He was that durable until the last year and a half or so when he finally became injured. I don't know if this kid is like that because he was injured while he was at Texas. So, I don't think he's going to be one of those every down backs where you can just pound him, down after down after down. So, we'll see.
Good thing they got lots of other backs behind him there.
That's true.
Off the pressure. I think we're all consensus out on Bijan here. I've seen him go as high as 1 in mock drafts.
That's nuts.
It is.
Was that a keeper league?
Out there? Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's one of 7's mocks.
Yeah, it was a redraft. The draft we were in together, where I was just like, I got CMC with the 3rd pick,
that's
which
nuts.
I couldn't believe. I was just like,
yeah.
That's nuts.
And I was like, I was saying in the comments of the draft, like, oh, this is such a reach. And everyone's like, no, it was a good pick. It was a good pick. And I was like, what are you guys talking about here? Like,
exactly.
What is
I'm
going
going
on?
to pray that happens in all my drafts this year. So if y'all are in a league with me, please draft him number 1 pick.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be gift wrapping you. We're gonna stay at the running back position here, Jeff. You want to talk about the guy who's going currently 1 spot behind Bijan Robinson. Who is your first bust candidate?
Jonathan Taylor, man. You got a lot of people that are kind of caught up in that whole thing. Like, where am I going to, this might be a year where a 0 RB strategy is kind of works because we really don't know who's doing what. But people are taking him, between the 3rd and the 5th RB in the draft. And the problem is we don't know who the quarterback is because we could be falling right into a Ravens situation where if it is the rookie that they start, this guy is a de facto running back as well. So if that's the case, I think he's going to lose a lot of goal line carries. He's going to lose a lot of carries, and then now we found out that he's actually got the propensity to be hurt as well. So, it's too many things are going on here. You got a new regime, you got a new quarterback, you've got a running quarterback, you've got you've got basically a little bit bigger Cam Newton. So it depends on how they're going to use him is going to dictate on what Jonathan Taylor does. So for me personally, I would rather even take a Nick Chubb or somebody like that over him this year. Nick Chubb no longer has to worry about Kareem Hunt right now. So, to me, I'm looking at him getting more run than Jonathan Taylor. Last year was not good for Jonathan Taylor. We can all agree that to that. So, I rest my case on that.
Yeah, to me, I think the biggest problem for Jonathan Taylor is going to be Anthony Richardson. You look back last year at the in college, Anthony Richardson had 2 running backs that played for 13 games with him, and they had 12 receptions and 9 receptions through 13 games. And for Jonathan Taylor, if you have, even if you sum those together, that's not going to be anywhere near enough receptions for you to be happy with Jonathan Taylor in fantasy football, especially so high. I think this is a team that's going to struggle to score touchdowns, which is what they struggled with last year. And if they struggle to move the ball, because I don't really believe in Anthony Richardson, and they struggle to score, and he's not getting his checkdowns that he got when, Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz were his quarterback, I think you're going to be looking at, as the RB4 off the board and being, wow, I ended up with the RB, 18, 19. So I do think it is a little high for Jonathan Taylor here. Will, what do you think about Jonathan Taylor?
If we're talking about ADP right now, being the 4th running back in, what is that? The
9th, bro.
About the 8th and 9th, yeah.
Well, that's not what Fantasy Pros is showing him. They got him. I'm trying to see, where is he? Sorry, whatever. He's not. He's running back. He's running back 5, going 12 in their ADP. Even then, I think that's a little bit of reach. I'm actually kind of high on Jonathan Taylor this year. I think with the running back chaos, he might be the more of a stable option, especially if you're going, 3rd round, maybe to pick your first running back if he's there. Obviously, maybe everybody else is much higher on him than I am. I'm not down on him, but I do have a hard time drafting him. If I'm in a 10 or 12 team league and I've picked like the top of the first round or at the back of the first round, right, and it's coming there, I don't think I'm picking him at 12 or 13. I'm probably taking 2 wide receivers to start, or a wide receiver and a quarterback or a tight end value, because I think I can get a running back in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that can be an RB1 for me this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seem to be a lot of people avoiding the running back position this year, and that's kind of makes me want to buy into some of the earlier running backs, because I think I can get really good value earlier on running backs, and then I can, when everyone else is scooping up running backs later, I can just kind of go through and pick at the wide receivers. Because if you look at the back of the first round, guys going behind Jonathan Taylor on sleeper, I would take Saquon, Derrick Henry. I would take Nick Chubb at the back of the first round. I think Nick Chubb's in for a really good season. And then you look at guys like Josh Jacobs, and I think that's where you kind of fall off a little bit. Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Breece Hall, Najee. So I think it is kind of a little murky after that. But if I could, at the end of the first round, get Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb, I think I'd be extremely happy with that kind of a start. As opposed to going, with the no running back strategy that I see a lot of people doing, getting 2 wide receivers. I think, then if you were to do that, you'd end up with like a CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown. I feel like I'd rather have Saquon and Nick Chubb than CeeDee and AJ Brown, but that's just me personally. I like my running backs. But we want to switch gears here. What wide receiver? You picked all wide receivers for this.
Yeah.
But which wide receiver?
Well, right. It's funny you said that, because when I sent you the names, I'm like, really, am I going to go all wide receivers? But if you look at, mock drafts and ADP, it's wide receiver heavy. So to me, it's like, okay, are we overvaluing wide receivers right now? And then I look at where some of these guys are going. So I'm going to start off with Cooper Kupp. There's no way he should be wide receiver 3 in the 4th pick of the draft. There's just no way, because there's too much uncertainty. But there's stories this week about, at least Pro Football Talk had stories this week about they're already predicting there's a bidding war coming between the 49ers and the Rams for Kirk Cousins after the seasons. Then the Pro Football Talk also had the story that the Rams were hoping to trade Stafford to the Jets if the Rodgers trade fell through, right? Mm-hmm. With them. That does not sound like a team that is going to be doing what everybody hopes. So I think there's a, fantasy, we're always kind of a little bit behind. We overvalue people based on past performance instead of understanding what their team is doing this year. It is obvious to me the Rams are not going to be what they were. Their division is going to be hard. I don't believe Stafford can stay healthy. And if Stafford's not healthy, are you really going to take the 4th pick on Cooper Kupp? And I like Cooper Kupp. I just think it's not a good year for him. And I don't think the ADP is wide receiver 3 when you have there's some a little bit of doubt there too, but there's it's like, honestly, I'd rather have Diggs, or I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb maybe. It's tough. It's just a tough draft this year. I'm not sure I want to be at the, how about this? I'm not sure I want to be at the top of my snake drafts. I'd rather be at the back of round 1 than at the top.
I would rather have Christian McCaffrey. I'll take the 1. Give me the 101. I'll take Christian McCaffrey, and then I'll take whoever's coming back to me. But I'm quite happy there. Or even if Justin Jefferson wants to go to 101, I'll take the 102 and just take Christian McCaffrey. Whatever way I can get Christian McCaffrey is the way I'm happy. But yeah, I understand what you're saying with Cooper Kupp. I think if Matthew Stafford stays healthy, I could see Cooper Kupp being the wide receiver 3. But again, that's probably his ceiling.
Yep.
And there's definitely a much lower floor. He could get hurt. Stafford could get hurt. They both could get hurt for all we know. And, you don't want to predict injuries, but that's something that can happen. You talked about the offense. If Stafford's playing and when he's healthy, I think that Cooper Kupp will still have value, who's the wide receiver 23 last year, and he only played 9 games. So that just kind of shows that when he was playing, he was doing extremely well. So I think he will put up points when he's playing, and when Stafford is playing, I believe that Cam Akers is going to have a big year, and I think that this offense would be right to rely on the running game as opposed to making Matthew Stafford throw the ball all over the field like he's done throughout the beginning of his career. We're at the end of Matthew Stafford here. He's been hurt forever. Let's run Cam Akers, get Sony Michel involved a little bit, and I think you take some of that pressure off Matthew Stafford, and maybe Matthew Stafford comes down in his total attempts, which definitely doesn't help Cooper Kupp when it comes to, he's pretty much their best target, and he's their best target, by a while. Their second wide receiver is probably Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
So there is definitely a big drop off. So Cooper Kupp's going to see all the attention of the defense. So maybe that also doesn't good. But you look at a guy, Matthew Stafford, in 9 games last year, had 300 pass attempts. So that's averaging probably just under 600. He had 600 attempts the year before that. And if the Rams want to be anything close to a playoff team, I don't think Matthew Stafford can throw the ball 600 times this season. So I agree.
If he's throwing a lot, he won't make it to the season.
No, exactly. That's what I said. They can't throw Matthew Stafford into the ground here. Their offensive line isn't good. So they can't have him sit back there all day either. So it's got to be quick throws, which maybe helps Cooper Kupp PPR wise. But I think wide receiver 3 is a little high. Jeff, are you saying the same thing there?
I am. I'm definitely saying it this year. There are some years where I always see somebody just go all in on them, and it's worked out, a couple of years ago. But like last year, I knew a breakdown was going to happen, and that was the ultimate thing. If Stafford goes down, they're pretty much done. All of the skill positions on that team is what they go through. John Wolford, and they brought in Bryce somebody, and I was like, I don't even know who these guys are after Wolford. So I was just like, yeah, I mean, it was over, and then he ends up getting hurt. So that's the thing, and I can see them trying to force him the ball and trying to do way too much. The last time he was on the top, he had other good receivers with him. He had Beckham and he had Woods. You know, those days are gone.
Yeah.
So you can't even rely on Van Jefferson. He's been hurt as well. So, you know, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting. We don't think anyone really is sure of what this Rams offense is going to look like. We all have our opinions of what it should look like and what it could look like. But, you know, with Sean McVay, you never really can tell. But I think wide receiver 3 is definitely a little high for me. We're going to go back to the running back position here. I got one more running back I want to talk about. And Jeff's not going to like this one here, but to me it is Kenneth Walker.
I already know.
He's currently going as the RB 14, and to me that is a little high. You bring in a guy like Zach Charbonnet, who's going to be the receiving back in that backfield, and he's also a bigger back, so maybe he takes away from some of the touchdowns that we saw last year for Kenneth Walker, where he had a great touchdown stretch, touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, no touchdowns, and then 2 touchdowns again. So if you have someone eating into the touchdowns a little bit, gets the goal line carries, I think Charbonnet will get. And, you know, he's going to get less carries if Charbonnet's in the game. He had so many games last year where he was getting 26 carries, 29 carries, 23 carries, 26, 23, 18, 21. And I'm not sure he's going to get those high 20s games anymore with Charbonnet in there. I think that this team's a little bit more comfortable with Geno Smith than they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they added some more receiving options. They'll look to throw the ball a little bit more, which again leads towards Charbonnet getting more involved in the offense. They took Charbonnet higher in this year's draft than they took Kenneth Walker in last year's draft class. Obviously means that they value this guy. So to me, Kenneth Walker, he's still a great NFL running back. And I think he could be a low end running back too for your fantasy team. So maybe if he was going in that RB20 range, I think I'd be fairly comfortable with him as a late RB2. But if you're going no running back and you get Kenneth Walker as your RB1, I think it's going to be too inconsistent. The PPR value not really going to be there. The touchdowns, probably be boom or bust. So I'm avoiding Kenneth Walker at his current ADP. Will, I want to jump to you before we let Jeff chime in here. Will, are you avoiding Kenneth?
Yeah, because the damn draft. I'm sorry. Like, the Seahawks, like, really? Really? I was ready to be high on Kenneth Walker. Hey, top 10 pick. I love him. Da-da-da. And they went and did what they did in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know what the hell to think. So, resident Seahawk fan, you tell me what to think about that for fantasy football, not for NFL. For fantasy football, what should we do, Jeff?
I'm going to tell you. Talk to Pete. Go ahead. Talk to my man Shane. I was like, give me the real on this stuff. Let me tell you what's going to happen here. The Seahawks now have probably one of the most balanced offenses in the NFL. And what they're going to do is Geno's not going to throw as much as he did last year. They're going to do what they do and run the ball. They've already said that Kenneth Walker is guaranteed 17 carries a game. For me, that's still a good amount.
That's coach talk.
Kenneth Walker is still a power back. I understand that Charbonnet is bigger, but Kenneth Walker is a power back. He proved it at Michigan State. Charbonnet is purely insurance against Walker getting hurt. That's what it is. He's gonna get some carries, but it's not going to be fully to where it pulls Kenneth Walker out of being the RB1. So there is not going to be necessarily an RB1 and an RB1A. Charbonnet is still the RB2 in that offense. Is he going to get the ball? Yes, he is. I don't think it's going to be goal line vultures. I think Walker is still going to get at least 20 carries a game. And as long as you're getting 20 carries a game, now if this was on a team that threw the ball a whole lot.
So he's going to have over 300 carries on the season.
I would say close. I'm going to say close, unless he gets hurt.
let me tell you what's going to happen, and this is fantasy football owner's nightmare. Jeff, you're right about the first 5 games. But Charbonnet, every week, you get past week 5, it's going to take a little more. He's going to take a little more. Charbonnet's no joke. He easily could have been running back 1 in this draft. Just being honest. He is going to be a vulture for carries and everything the longer this season goes.
Let me stop you right there, Vikings fan.
Charbonnet.
Look at last year. Look at last year.
Wanted Jordan Howard.
This is why I'm telling you guys is from looking at last year. I honestly thought that Kenneth Walker was going to get carries a lot earlier than he did. The Seahawks stuck with Penny until he got hurt. Kenneth Walker was on the bench. I drafted him in all of my leagues and was like, when is he going to get his chance? They stuck with Penny for most of the games last year until he got hurt. And that's when Kenneth Walker just got basically full on used because Penny was done for the season. But Pete still stays pretty loyal to whoever that RB1 guy is. I think that Charbonnet is going to get more carries than what Walker did last year with Penny when Penny was healthy. But he is not going to pull it to where Walker is not getting the lion's share. So I think it's getting overblown a little bit, like they're going to be a 50-50. It's going to be a timeshare. It's going to be an actual full-blown committee. I'm not sure. I think Charbonnet is really there for insurance. Yes, he's going to get some carries, but it's not. I'm really predicting that it's still going to be a 70-30 share and nothing like a 60-40 and definitely not a 50-50.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think you'll have Kenneth Walker will probably be on the field about 60% of the time. And then I think Charbonnet will probably be on the field about 35% of the time. Mm-hmm. And then, the Seahawks, they got to get a couple other their guys involved there.
Yeah. They'll put DJ in here and there,
Exactly. So I think
all they have right now.
60-35 split is kind of what I'm projecting. And I'm projecting third, DJ will get some third down work.
Actually, no. I don't even think it's going to be DJ. It's going to be Kenny McIntosh, the kid out of Georgia.
There you go. It'll be someone. For sure. And I think Charbonnet gets the third down work. He gets the receptions and touchdowns. I think. I don't know. Did you give the ball to the guy who's 5'9", or you give the ball to the guy who's 6'1"?
The guy that's 5'9".
I'm giving the ball to the 6'1".
The guy that's 5'9" has power. Let's not forget about that. It's not like
have you not seen Charbonnet's highlight reel?
I've seen it.
Runs over people for a living.
I've seen that, but it's not the same. Go back and look at Michigan State's tape with Walker running over.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid now.
Trust me.
You're
watch him run over people from Michigan's defense.
Seattle.
Watch him run over for people from Michigan's defense, not USC's paper mache defensive line.
Fighting words.
Yeah. Little Big 12 versus Pac-12.
So all Big 12 now.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think Kenneth Walker, great NFL running back,
But I will say
Charbonnet.
Top 10, I don't think he's going to be top 10 this year, but RB14, that's okay with me. Just because I know
would you take him as your RB1 and be confident with that if you got 2 wide receivers?
Yeah, well, you still got Geno. I mean, we trust Geno a little bit, but remember, there's been a lot of guys that have that dream season, and then the next season they go back to their nightmare. So I think that's what Pete is kind of like, yeah, we're not going to have that. We're not going to have you throw as much as you did last year.
You draft JSN.
We're gonna balance this whole thing. We're gonna balance it. Now you cannot stack the box against the Seahawks at all.
Well, if Geno has this year you seem to think he's gonna have where he falls off, then you're stacking the box everywhere.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think it's gonna be a lot easier for him where he doesn't have to throw the ball as much. That's all I'm saying. You're not gonna your defense is gonna be spread. So now you got open lanes for running backs to run. If you decide to go ahead and play up, now you got to deal with DK. You got to deal with JSN coming across the middle. You got to deal with Tyler Lockett in the corner. So good luck.
This offense sounds like it has too many mouths to feed and not enough quality touches to make these fantasy relevant. You got
It's
DK,
gonna work.
Tyler Lockett,
It's gonna
JSN,
work.
Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet.
So you know what I just heard? In a redraft league, do not draft JSN.
Yeah.
That's what I just heard.
I'm not drafting them really high. No, I'm not.
And they're
I'm
paying
higher on DK. So
the Seahawks are paying Will Dissly like $7 million a year.
Yeah.
At tight end too. So you got Noah Fant in there too as well. Like this offense fantasy wise.
Those guys aren't the guys to watch for.
They're gonna take targets.
Will, you ought to know. There's a kid out of UCLA that they drafted as well.
Oh yeah.
Jake Bobo.
Bobo's
He's going to be a
no
de
joke,
facto. He's going to be a hybrid tight end.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So there's just more people to
take
away touches from Kenneth Walker. So
we're going to be a high scoring offense, though. So
well, you'll have to be with that defense.
Oh, well, that's another topic.
We'll move on here, Jeff. Let's talk about your next guy, our last running back unless we'll talk about Zach's guys, but one running back here that you do not like for this upcoming year based on his current ADP.
Yeah, a lot of people are still drafting Tony Pollard pretty high. And you still have a possible comeback of Zeke. You got them looking at possibly adding another veteran running back. You've got the young guy Deuce coming in, man. And I don't know if he's really, how he's going to be after that injury. So there's a lot of question marks. If he's going to be the actual full 3-down back. We don't know. So that's what I'd rather take Kenneth Walker over him. That's just me. What is he at right now? What are people?
Has him running back 8, going 22nd.
They got him at running back. Yeah, running back late second round. They got him at running back 9.
Yeah,
running back 9 is kind of high for me. There are some other guys that I think again like a Nick Chubb. If he's around there, I think I'd feel more comfortable with the Nick Chubb. Derrick Henry. I think I'd feel more comfortable with Derrick Henry than with Tony Pollard right now because I know he's going to get the carries and I know he's healthy. So, and I know that whole offense depends on him. So that's just my thing. It's just a lot of people have him, thinking he's going to be the Tony Pollard that they've been expecting to be the quick, fast. I can't wait till he's the RB1 and Zeke is gone. But if he wasn't injured, possibly. But after that injury, I don't know what he's going to be. So I'm if I'm getting him late, maybe early 3rd round, something like that, then I'm going to take a flyer. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think Pollard is probably going around, where he should be, maybe a couple picks later, but he's going around the likes of Breece Hall, Ramondre Stevenson, and that's kind of where I feel like he fits in. There's some question marks, obviously. Breece Hall injury, Tony Pollard injury, Ramondre Stevenson, he's a Patriot. So they all have their flaws in that regard, right? So I think it's kind of around where he is. And like we said, this running back position really isn't, this year, it's not really as clear cut. So if you want to take a chance on a guy, Tony Pollard right now, you got Malik Davis behind him. You brought up Deuce Vaughn, but Deuce Vaughn's not going to make it in the NFL. He's too small.
Yeah.
Don't care what anyone
Sizeism. What's going on with that, man?
He's too small, Jeff.
He's a 10 play a game guy at best.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he returned some punts.
Yeah.
Short guys, they're good at that. Catching the ball can sometimes be hard.
Man, you never know.
The ball's about the size of their arm, from what I hear, so it's kind of hard for them to corral those punts. But other than that, I'm not really worried about Deuce Vaughn. Maybe they bring back Zeke. I could see that as a possibility. But if Zeke comes back, he's the RB2. He's not going to eat into the receiving game for Pollard. Pollard will start once he's healthy. So I think you take a shot at Pollard. I think maybe he's a couple picks too early, but I'm not necessarily out on Pollard. Will, what do you think? You are our Texas man.
From what I'm hearing from minicamp and all that, he's ahead of schedule. He's running fine. I think people are going to devalue him in the drafts. Is the late second probably a good spot for him? Early third? Yeah. So I actually think the ADP is right now. I have a funny feeling for those of you who draft late in the preseason, Pollard's going to do this. So if you're drafting early, you should get in on him early, because I bet you he's high second round by the time, just because of Cowboy fans. They're going to see him in one preseason game. He's going to run one play. He's going to look healthy, and they're all going to overvalue him. And if you have a Cowboy fan in your draft, he is not making it to the end of the second round.
Mm-hmm. And
that's what I'm talking about.
We want to stay with the Cowboys theme here, Will. You're a Texas guy, and you're bringing up another Cowboy here. So who you want to talk about as not being able to live up to their ADP?
Look, there's a lot of pressure on the Cowboys this year as a team. There's a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott. The guy I'm most concerned about in the Cowboys is CeeDee Lamb. I don't think he's going to get the targets they think he is. I think there's a lot of competition. I'm feeling, being here in Dallas, I'm a little biased, yes, but I'm just telling you, the vibe's a little weird. This is one of those vibes you get around here when things aren't going to go well. There's a high expectations based on last year. They have added pieces, a lot of pressure on Dak, even Troy Aikman saying they can't win the big games when it matters. I don't know. I'm uneasy about CeeDee Lamb going where he's going right now, because I just don't think there's going to be numbers there for him to justify the 11th pick.
And Will, that's the other thing that brought me back with Tony Pollard, and it kind of scares me with CeeDee Lamb. I don't know about Mike McCarthy calling plays. That's my main thing. That's what really is starting to shut stuff down. I felt better with what's his name? Yeah, calling the plays, man. But Mike McCarthy, I'm like, dude, that's yeah. That has me afraid for that offense right now.
Look, the Cowboys, and Jeff's hitting on a spot that I hadn't. Jeff, you're hitting the nail on the head. At the Giants, home for the Jets, at the Cardinals, home for the Patriots, and then at the 49ers. They could easily be 2 and 3. And if that happens, I'm not sure Jerry Jones is keeping McCarthy. And then the wheels are going to come off the bus. It's just going to be a nightmare.
Well, they could easily be 1 and 4.
Yes.
They could lose to the Patriots if the Patriots get some things going.
Yeah.
They're not going to lose to the Cardinals, obviously, but
only thing that scares me about that game is that game's in Arizona. And sometimes Arizona plays really well against the Cowboys at home.
Exactly.
It just
That's right.
I think they could be 1 and 4. I'm not a McCarthy fan.
I think they lose to the Giants, and I think they start 0-2. They lose the Giants and they lose to the Jets.
I can see that, yeah.
And then on the road for the Cardinals, they better not lose that game because McCarthy can just stay in Arizona.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it would be rough if they did start out that way. I think that you're in an offense right now that, they added Brandon Cooks. He's going to garner some targets. They didn't add, but Michael Gallup, a season removed from his surgery. He's now healthy. People have been talking up Jalen Tolbert from what I've heard in mini camps. Jalen Tolbert he's been the most improved player in this Dallas camp. You have a couple guys at tight end, Schoonmaker, Hendershot, Ferguson, guys that they got involved last year. Schultz is gone, so there is some vacated targets there. But I don't think CeeDee Lamb goes and gets more than 156 targets that he had last year. Dak Prescott has shown us that he, is probably, when it comes to fantasy-wise, he's a Jameis Winston-esque.
Yeah.
He gets the yards and he'll get some touchdowns, but, he's going to get those interceptions. Mm-hmm. That number was extremely high last year. I believe he had 15 interceptions. Mm-hmm. I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe it was around 15 interceptions. So that's not a great number for your starting quarterback to have. Jeff said it. Mike McCarthy calling the plays. Not a fan. I personally love Michael Gallup as a player.
Yeah.
We all know Brandon Cooks. He's been a wide receiver 1 on almost every other team he's been on. So now he comes in to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense. He's going to take some targets away for sure.
Zach, I actually think the real value for the Cowboys, if you don't have a Cowboy fan in your draft, the real value is Pollard and Gallup. Because I think Pollard's going to be okay, and I think he's going to get his touches. And he's dynamic, especially if you get half point or full point per reception. You're going to get the numbers there. I actually think Gallup's the wide receiver that's going to get you, as a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4, is going to get you some points every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he could be a plug-and-play guy. Currently going as a wide receiver, or overall, 153rd overall.
You got to remember Brandon Cooks is there too. So
I just don't think Cook.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, because that's what I thought too. Like when he was with Houston, I kind of thought he was washed up, even though he was like the only guy to throw to. But still, he's still got some speed. He can still catch. So they're kind of that same way where they've got kind of like, who is it after CeeDee Lamb, or sometimes you've seen CeeDee Lamb kind of fade away, and it's like, who's the other guy that's going to get the ball?
So one real quick point and wrap this up. Remember CeeDee Lamb's rookie year. Dak's a guy that in my experience watching Dak here, is Dak's a guy that likes to have relationships with his teammates. It's a trust issue for Dak. Dak will go to the guys he's used to going to before he goes to the new guy. This is what worries me about Cooks is CeeDee Lamb, like rookie year, 111 targets, second year, 120, third year, 156. Right? So I'm not sure. I think Dak is going to be more comfortable going to Gallup than he is Cooks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Cooks will probably have more targets when we look at the end of the year. But Cooks is going to be, I think, a boom bust type player this year, and I think Gallup will probably get you 7 to 12 points week in, week out. I think is what you can kind of expect. They're going to throw the ball a lot, especially with Pollard coming off the injury. Yeah. They have Pollard's a good receiving back as well, and it's Mike McCarthy. So since we think they're going to throw the ball a lot, they're going to run Malik Davis 250 times this year for all we know. Deuce Vaughn's going to get 50 carries in the one game, and then he'll never play football again. That'll be it for him. He'll tear his entire body in half, and then he'll be over with. But
I think we might have a new Cordell Patterson.
But we got a couple more guys. Will and I have one that we've agreed upon. We both nominated. Jeff's got a guy left, and then we'll just talk quickly about Zach's guys before we close the show. So we're gonna stick with it. My guy and Will's guy here is the wide receiver 1, maybe, for his team. And being the wide receiver 1 on his team, he could very well be 3rd in targets. And that's Deebo Samuel. Yeah. Currently going as the wide receiver 16, 35th overall. Yeah. I'm out on Deebo Samuel there. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey. Very, very high chance, especially if, Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold are starting for this team, that Christian McCaffrey leads the team in targets. George Kittle, he's an amazing talent at the tight end position. Brandon Ayuk, great wide receiver, everything we've seen from him so far. And Deebo Samuel, he's amazing too, but I just don't think there's enough volume for him to kind of – people are still looking back 2 years ago at his, 2nd overall finish at the wide receiver position, and he's just not getting that same volume that he was. He got all the running work that season because the running backs were so hurt. Now you have Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, both healthy. That running game's not going to be the same for him this year. He might get a couple touches a game, but it's not like he's going to get, all these red zone carries, 8 rushing attempts. That's not going to happen. It might be 2, 3. And then you look at his targets. He gets the targets, but they're inconsistent. His reception to target ratio isn't great. They do have some quarterback questions. So are you even really going to rely on, was it Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance? We don't really even know at this point. And he's got a history of being hurt. Only had, 2 touchdowns through the air last year, 3 on the ground. But to me, when you look at, this team, Brandon Ayuk, I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Ayuk has more targets and more maybe not more targets, but he'll probably have more receptions come the end of the year than Deebo Samuel does. And like I said, I think Christian McCaffrey is still the guy in that team to own because he's going to see all that work. Even you look at last year, Brandon Ayuk had more receptions, more targets. He had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. And that's kind of what you got to expect out of Brandon Ayuk again. I can't take Deebo. I honestly wouldn't want Deebo as my RB or my wide receiver 2. He'd have to be my wide receiver 3 if he was to be on my team, and that means he's going, RB or wide receiver like 28. Maybe I'd look at him, and he's currently going as wide receiver 16, so I'm way out on Deebo Samuel. Will, you also select him?
Zach, you hit it all on the head. He's the biggest loser for the CMC trade. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's draftable. I think he's a wide receiver 4 in your draft this year because of the uncertainty. Could be wrong, but I'm not drafting him. I need 3 good wide receivers who I know are going to be on the field for the whole season and have a chance to be the number 1 wide receiver or a primary target.
Mm-hmm. So Ayuk's currently going 73rd overall. Deebo Samuel's going 38th.
It's fantasy owners being behind, right?
Yeah. I'd much rather have Brandon Ayuk than Deebo Samuel. And you get him so much later. Jeff, what do you think? You didn't nominate him, but
all along I've said, back when people were still taking him pretty high, that he's not a great receiver. His whole thing was him getting the ball in his hands and the run after either the catch or being a de facto running back. And that's
just Cordell Patterson.
Exactly. Yeah. A glorified Cordell Patterson. Yeah. That's exactly it, because he's not a great receiver. It's just the fact that he gets the ball in his hands. Sometimes he's really good at the run after the catch. But if he gets hurt, you're hurt. And now that he's not getting the ball as far as carries from that running back position, that the only way I see him having some value is if somehow CMC gets hurt. Yeah. And they're going to have to start going to him. They'll probably be using him, Elijah Mitchell, whoever else they got as their second running back. It'll go back to finding a way to get him in there. But that was one of the worst things that he could have done, was saying, I don't want to be a running back. I want to be strictly a wide receiver. And it was like, you're not that great of a wide receiver. So that was just my thing. You don't get great separation. You're good after you get the ball in your hands. But if you get hurt, which now that injury that he had, it's like, what's he going to be like this season? So, and then now with the uncertainty of getting the ball. And that was the thing as well. Him and Brock Purdy never seemed to have a big rapport. It was definitely Ayuk and Kittle more than him. So depending on who that quarterback is, it's going to be interesting to see. After Jimmy G was out, then that kind of changed his dynamic as well.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, the connection wasn't there with Purdy. You look even at the running backs, even if Christian McCaffrey misses a couple games, Elijah Mitchell is there. We know what he can do. He's, an RB1. They have the guy they drafted last year, Davis Price, in the 3rd round. They have Jordan Mason, who we saw actually play really good last year. So even if Christian McCaffrey misses a couple games, Deebo's still probably not even going to get that many carries. Yeah. So Deebo, out on Deebo.
I wonder if there's buyer's remorse now for how much they paid him. That's the only thing that I look at is he going to bully his way into getting more targets or something like that, because he seemed to have a lot of influence on what he was going to actually be in that offense. After the injury, I think that now has, kind of taken that power away from him.
Well, yeah, if he wants to, start bullying his way into targets, he's going to have to out-bully George Kittle. And I'm putting my money on Kittle there. I think Kittle would be a better bully than.
Well, I'm meaning his agent starts saying, "Hey."
But at that point, get rid of Deebo.
Targets.
Yeah, no, I think that If we had to pick maybe a player that could be traded in the preseason,
true.
it could be Deebo.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't really need him.
Exactly.
And if they can get, a solid wide receiver and something else for Deebo, I think make that trade easily. But let's move on here. We got one more guy from Jeff, and then quickly we'll just touch on Zach's guys.
Controversial.
Who is it, Jeff?
It is my man Jamar Chase, who I've been watching go as the third pick in the draft, third, fourth, or fifth, solidly. And I'm just like, for a guy that was the 12th, the wide receiver 12 last year, even though he missed some games, I was just like, there's probably a good 3 or 4 wide receivers that I'd choose over him, rather other than just players in general. And I'm just like, what is it? He's not Justin Jefferson yet. He may be, but that's just a little bit rich for my blood, him being the 3rd to 5th player drafted overall. So, last year, what? He had 9 touchdowns, only played 12 games because he was injured. But I think, with T. Higgins there, T. Higgins might dig in a little bit more. I think being in the AFC North this year is going to be a little bit more difficult as well. There's just some things where I don't know if I can justify taking him, over Austin Eckler. I don't know if I can justify, for some reason, if CMC fell a little bit further. I don't know, man. That's I'm honestly thinking I might even take Kelsey before I took him. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but there are a lot of people that are like, I've seen in a couple of mocks where it's been Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? What am I missing? So I'll get that out there and see what happens.
Yeah, so Chase played in 13 games last year. He played 17 in his rookie year. His targets went up by 6. He had 134 targets last year, and his receptions also went up by 6. He had 87 receptions last year. So he had more targets, more receptions. He had 400 less yards and 4 less touchdowns than his rookie year. So the efficiency dropped. And, it kind of came back down to earth a little bit. His rookie year was absolutely phenomenal. 18 yards per catch, dropped back down to 12 yards last year. So he became more of a PPR guy last year than he was in his rookie year. But those massive 50-point games just weren't there last year. He wasn't completely taking the top off of defenses, and that wasn't really what the Bengals were trying to do. So you look at that, he was averaging pretty good, 18 points per game when it comes to fantasy last year. So that's still pretty good. Would I take him over Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey? Absolutely not. But I think he definitely would be a top pick for me. I think he would probably be, if I had to stat out the wide receivers, I think probably have Tyreek Hill ahead of him.
Would you have Devontae Adams ahead of him?
No.
Really?
Not without Derek Carr. I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. I never have liked Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's the thing. To me, Devontae Adams has kind of proven that he is quarterback proof. I mean, even if his touchdowns drop,
we'll get a test this year
by 3. Yeah, really. He had 14 touchdowns last year. He had
when you guys all said he wasn't going to have double-digit touchdowns last year.
I didn't think he was. Because this was the first we've seen him without Aaron Rodgers, and now I'm starting to think that it was more Devontae Adams than it even was Aaron Rodgers. This dude had 180 targets last year. So I'm just
Derek Carr loved Devontae Adams.
Exactly. But I'm like, who else is Jimmy G or whoever's going to play quarterback? Who else are they going to throw to? And he's the only guy that I would trust to be able to beat a double team. He's the only guy that I trust right now that can handle any type of defense that teams throw at him. So that's what I'm saying.
They just paid Myers. They still have Renfro. Like, I was super in on Devontae Adams last year. He was my wide receiver 1 going into the year or close to it. I think I had Justin Jefferson ahead of him right around the preseason, and I had Devontae Adams as my wide receiver too. And you guys all said I was crazy and that he wasn't going to get the touchdowns and he wasn't going to get the targets, and he did. And this year, I'm telling you, I think he'll be okay. But I expect him to come back down from the Derek Carr targets that he saw, because Derek Carr
thinking he might come down,
hyper targeted him.
I don't think Chase goes past him. That's all I'm saying. As I just, to me, it's a gamble taking this kid, and he could prove me wrong. You never know. But with T. Higgins and some of the other receivers that they have there, you have other guys to get the ball to. And Burrow is good about getting the ball to other guys in that offense. And they're a balanced offense as well. So that's the thing. I don't see him just out there chucking the ball like Derek Carr. So, that's my thing. So to take him with a third pick, fourth or fifth, that's still really high to me.
Yeah, I think I'd take him around 7 or 8 is where I would take him.
Yeah, I could go with that. But when I saw 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4. His current ADP on Sleeper is 3.
Yeah.
And that's too high for me. Will,
and that's all I'm saying.
What do you think?
It's just too high. And part of it's him, part of it's the Bengals. I don't trust that Bengals offense. Just don't.
But I trust them for real football, just not for fantasy.
Yeah, that for real. Fantasy, right? We're having a fantasy discussion. I think the Bengals are going to be a great team. Chase at 3? No. That's all hype. That's all speculation. And ESPN and then, like when ESPN released the Keyshawn and J. Will Max show, they ranked their top 5 wide receivers currently in the NFL as Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, and A.J. Brown. That is what they said are the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL.
Say that again.
Tyreek Hill is number 1. Devontae Adams is number 2. Jamar Chase is number 3. Stephon Diggs is 4. And A.J. Brown is 5.
Wait. We're missing somebody there.
Oh, we all know who we're missing. But this is
they got number 2, right? They got number 2, right?
This is the hype that creates people overdrafting Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Justin Jefferson, I think is probably.
Yeah, I would think Justin Jefferson is at least a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL.
What did he do to this?
See, this is what happens when you fire Keyshawn and he's still letting him on the radio.
There it is.
Doing this stuff.
There it is.
Yeah.
And Jay Will, I'm like, stick to basketball. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, I think,
Lord.
It's Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson at the top there.
That's it. Exactly.
Not
but
sure.
They have Jamar Chase is 3.
Tyreek Hill would be 3.
Yes, Tyreek Hill. And honestly, I may go with A.J. Brown at 4.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the targets.
How much you believe in Jalen
70
Hurts?
targets. Yeah. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. I think we all agree 3 is too high for Jamar Chase. So we got a couple of Zach's guys to quickly talk about here before we end. Zach brought up one guy I really like having here, and it's going to be another Falcon. I know we've talked a lot about the Falcons, and I love talking about the Falcons when it comes to being busts. And this is a guy I didn't really love coming out of college, and that's Drake London. He's currently going as a wide receiver 23. I assume Zach has some quarterback questions. I would second those quarterback questions. Is Drake London going to be the number 1 target on this team? To me, Kyle Pitts is a better, talent on the field. We just talked about this running game. We know they're going to run the ball a lot. We should probably get like a Cordell Patterson counter on the screen somewhere eventually. Just how many times is Cordell Patterson mentioned?
Cordell Patterson. A drinking game. Every time we say Cordell Patterson, someone has to drink.
I think that's maybe my next get together. I'll put our show on and just drink every time we bring up Cordell Patterson. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people to feed in an offense I don't project to be good. That's kind of what I expect Zach to have said behind this Drake London pick. Are any of you guys in on Drake London at wide receiver 23? He'd be a wide receiver 2 at that range.
Okay, in Fantasy Pros, on a half-point PPR has London at 26. And after him is Mike Williams, Chris Goodwin, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans, Marquise Brown, George Pickens. I think he's probably kind of in the right range right now. The only person I would, that was the draft board for me, I'd probably take Ayuk before I took him. Probably Mike Williams. I'm not taking Goodwin. I'm not sure I'm taking Michael Pittman. Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, so
Tyler Lockett.
Sleepers. He has Judy behind him. I'd rather have Judy. Godwin. I'd probably rather have Godwin still. And then Pittman. Marquise Brown is going behind.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Marquise Brown for sure. Locked and loaded. Mike Williams, maybe. Brandon Ayuk for sure. Mike Evans, maybe. I'd rather have Tyler Lockett. I don't care what's going on there. I'd rather have Tyler Lockett. I'd rather personally have Treylon Burks. I believe in Treylon Burks.
Yeah, he's another one. He's kind of in that same situation for me. I just don't know. Drake London actually produced a little bit more than Treylon Burks last year. At least the first couple of games, he was at least giving you a touchdown here and there. So to me, but now it's just the quarterback. That's the only question.
And Treylon Burks is 3 rounds later.
In Ritter's 4 games, London did okay. 11 targets, 9 targets, 8. The touchdowns were no touchdowns, though. So that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. And, with a healthy Kyle Pitts, does that stay in fruition where he's getting
healthy.
11 targets?
Yeah, the word healthy.
Word healthy.
And they added Johnny Smith to this offense as well, so even when Kyle Pitts isn't playing, I hate to break to you, but Johnny Smith is going to get some targets. He's got the familiarity with the coaching staff already. Yeah. So,
London's if you get him as in the wide receiver 28 and Ritter develops, you got a steal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely could be if this offense would have to take a step forward.
Yeah.
He'd have to score. I think he'd have to have probably 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he had 4
at his ADP. Yeah, I think he'd have to double that to be.
And that was kind of what in the first
the
first 4 games.
First 11 games. He got all his touchdowns through week 11.
Yeah. So I think it's a little high for me.
Wait, look at this stat line. Week 11, 1 reception, 3 targets, 2 yards,
and a touchdown.
1 touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what you can expect from Drake London, I think.
9 to 10 points a game. That's what you're
not going to be consistent. So yeah, I think Drake London, we're all kind of there, and then the other guy Zach brought up, which is another one we just talked about. He's going RB10 right behind Tony Pollard, and that's Breece Hall. Kind of interested to see Zach's take behind this. Maybe he thinks Dalvin Cook signs with the Jets. If that happens, then absolutely Breece Hall at 10 is definitely going to be a bust. If that doesn't happen and Breece Hall starts week 1 and just can kind of slowly start to work back into an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, I think Breece Hall could easily return on the running back 10 value.
I'm trying to remember who else is in that backfield.
Michael Carter.
I know Michael Carter's there. I thought there was somebody else.
He's on at night. No one anywhere near Breece Hall's talent level.
Right.
And they're not taking away from Breece Hall. If they sign Dalvin Cook, absolutely drop Breece Hall down your rankings. If they don't sign Dalvin Cook, I'm in on Breece Hall.
So my only thing with Breece Hall, like on Fantasy Pros, they got him at running back 12, going 29.
Mm-hmm. Middle of the third.
That's who it was. The kid they drafted, Israel. Yeah. He's no joke.
Yeah.
Are they going to carry 4 running backs though?
Yeah.
Sovian Knight might be gone.
Yeah.
They've already elevated him to RB3.
Yeah.
So let's see. They've been talking raving about him in camp. So
the draft board for running back, if we're following the ADP on Fantasy Pros, Breece Hall, Etienne, Walker, Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Dobbins, Pierce. Yeah, I'm taking a lot of those guys before I take Breece Hall.
And I'm
Unless
not.
I'm drafting.
I take Breece Hall over everyone you just named.
Oh no, I
The
take
only
ETN
guy
over Breece
a
Hall.
sleeper has going behind Breece Hall that I would take over him is Najee Harris. I would take Najee Harris over Breece Hall on sleepers ADP.
Fantasy Pros has Najee just in front of.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I would be. I think Breece Hall. You said RB12. I feel like I'm taking Breece Hall over Travis Etienne. I like Tank Bigsby. I don't know if Etienne can hold up. Kenneth Walker. I don't want Kenneth Walker. We already talked about that.
That's the same thing. I don't know if Breece Hall can hold up, man. I mean, that's 2 consecutive injuries for him to that knee. And and to me, if he wasn't injured, man, shoot, he'd be one of my top running backs. Yeah. That's my thing. I don't know if he's able to stay healthy, man. He's going to – I just feel like he's going to miss some games, man. And I hope he doesn't because he's a great guy.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, it's just the only thing with Breece Hall is the injury and the rumor of on June 28th that Dalvin Cook has a potential contract offer from them. That just blows it all up, right? But now we get to preseason and we know the rosters are pretty much set. Then
if this roster is set here, I think RB12, you can be fairly confident. As long as there's no setbacks with the ACL. Like most of my drafts aren't until the preseason anyway. So you kind of get more of a chance to kind of see how things are falling. And I think if this kind of stays the way it is, Breece Hall is going to play week 1. He won't be, he's obviously not going to be back to what we saw last year, but he's going to be okay. He's going to play. I think by the end of the year, he'll be a guy that can win you some championships. Even if he starts out slow and you didn't draft Breece Hall, come week 5, Breece Hall is only averaging 60 yards a game. He's got a couple touchdowns. Go get yourself some Breece Hall because once he turns it on, you'll want to have him on your team.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think that's really about it. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we end here? We had some great talks today, some busts, lots of Cordero Patterson talk. That's kind of what we're known for. So I think definitely a good episode. We just did a breakout, kind of guys are going to overachieve their ADP last week. You can go have a look at that. This week was bust. You'll have to wait and see what we do next week. But we got content coming for you all off season. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I want to thank Jeff and Will from Media for joining. And like I said, we'll see you next week.
All right, Zach. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.